We are live on youtube.com/fantasy football today. For those of you listening, you want to be part of these in the future, youtube.com/fantasy football today. Subscribe to the channel, find out when we're going live, where there's breaking news. For example, we're expecting Deshaun Watson to be traded soon. Hopefully soon. Jay Glazer is expecting that. Maybe tonight. We shall see. But yeah, we got big news coming right now. Really, we're checking all the tweets. Checking all the news. Julio Jones expected to be released. That's a little bit bigger than the Raiders expected to sign Brandon Bolden, but that makes sense. Reuniting with Josh McDaniels. Adam Azer, Dave Richard, and Heath Cummings here. We're going to be talking about all this. Good afternoon, guys. Have you enjoyed your Thursday off?
How you get through the intro without mentioning that Zach Greinke's back with the Royals, but other than that, I'm doing fantastic.
He's in baseball mode. That's the third time he's mentioned the Greinke signing since I've spoken to him in the last.
I'm happy that, and this solidifies that he'll go into the Hall of Fame in a Royals cap, and I think George Brett's the only one that's ever done that. So it's nice to have a second.
Oh, that's pretty
Kenny
cool.
Moore just tweeted at Allen Robinson, "What number do you want that Royal gonna hit?" And I think he means royal blue that the Colts wear. Are we about to see Allen Robinson with the Colts, or is he just mugging?
Yeah. One thing we know is that Heath, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Royals definitely can't hit.
Can't hit what?
Baseball? Come on. Like pitches. They can't hit.
No, they have lots of good hitters. I think they have the guy who led the baseball in home runs last year, right?
I have no idea who that is.
Salvador Perez. Who was that 2 years ago?
Oh, no, it could have been. He was quite prolific. All right. Anyway, what's your reaction to Julio Jones being released or expected to be released?
Initially, I thought, it doesn't really matter. Julio barely played for him last year, but they were amongst the teams that had the most targets to replace coming into the offseason. And so it is a little bit interesting. Like, it'd be nice to one day see A.J. Brown play 15 or 16 games with a 30% target share and just be the wide receiver one. But they've got some room, I would assume, in a couple of weeks for some lower level pass catchers to come in there and become fantasy relevant.
Agreed. They saved almost $10 million. They're designating him a post June 1st cut. So he helps their cap as well. It ended up being just an absolute nightmare of a deal for Tennessee. And I agree, Heath. I think they can find somebody else to come in and be better than the other receivers they had there outside of A.J. Brown, and probably not be as good as whatever the ceiling is nowadays for Julio.
And this is something that I guess I haven't really thought about in past years, but the way I understand that, they can't use that Julio money until June 1st.
I think that's right.
That's kind of weird.
Right. There's a heartwarming storyline here. Julio can go back to Atlanta and
that's a good
be
point.
Wide open quite often, playing alongside Kyle Pitts and catching passes from who knows?
Deshaun Watson.
I think the Dolphins had it their way. That's
Julio's 33 years old. And by the way, what we're doing right now is getting your questions here in the YouTube chat. So please hop on in, ask a question. Heath, have a haircut. That's one of the questions. Yeah, it's been a little while now. A little while. I have a more recent haircut. Thanks for noticing, Morgan.
So Julio's going to be 33, and there's really no reason to expect that he can play a full season and stay healthy. But even last year, when they threw him the ball, good things happened. 9 yards per target is still way above average. 14 yards per catch is still good. He still caught 65% of the passes, right at his career average. We have plenty of reason to wonder how many games can Julio Jones stay healthy for. We've not been given any indication that Julio Jones is even average. He's still an above average wide receiver when he's healthy from everything we've seen.
Okay. So I think, let's see, his last good season was age 31. That's fair to say, because age 32 didn't go very well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just wondering from a dynasty standpoint if that's. I think that we've seen elite wide receivers. He's a Hall of Famer. Receivers that good can be good into their early 30s. He has had a pretty rough decline, a pretty steep one. Maybe he bounces back. I know Reggie Wayne had a really bad down year, kind of the same age. I'll go look at his career log, and then he bounced back in a big way.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, elite receiver 32, 33, you can still, if you're lucky, you get a good season out of there. But I'm just wondering, if you have Devontae Adams in a dynasty league, what you're thinking as you look at the decline of Julio Jones.
Depends on if you're a contender or not, but I would just bring up Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he had 784 yards in 16 games in 2014, 798 in 2012. And then at 32 years old, he catches 109 passes for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Right.
So yeah, there's hope, but like Adams just hasn't shown us any signs and didn't have the prior injury problems that Julio had.
Okay. Reggie Wayne, 960 yards at age 33, bounced back with 1,355 yards at age 34. And that was his last good season. All right. Baker Mayfield. Looks like no matter what happens, whether they end up with Deshaun Watson or not, according to Chris Mortensen of ESPN, Dave, Baker Mayfield and the Browns are breaking up regardless of the team's pursuit of Deshaun Watson. I do see some questions coming in here, so I'll get to them after we talk about Baker Mayfield. But give me your thoughts here, Dave.
Seemed like they were destined for a breakup even before Baker decided to write a love letter and put it on social media. Baker Reagan Mayfield, I should say. And look, I can't blame the Browns for doing what they're doing. They've had a hard time trying to gain some traction with Baker Mayfield. They had the decent playoff run 2 playoffs ago, but they're looking at their division and they know the Steelers are going to reload as soon as they can. The Bengals are now the cream of the crop of the AFC North. Ravens aren't going to go anywhere. Where does that leave the Browns? Are they at the bottom of the division again? And if so, what can they possibly do? Making an acquisition of Deshaun Watson would be amazing. But I think they also want to try and just move on to a quarterback that they think who can manage them to some wins, whereas Baker might have cost them some wins. I fall back to this point. They surrounded him with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and 2 pretty capable tight ends who can make some plays in David Njoku and Austin Hooper, and a run game that was pretty amazing and still is amazing, and an offensive line that we were talking about as one of the best in football. And Baker still couldn't play amazing. He was all right. They can find all right. They're all right is waiting for them in San Francisco. So I understand what they're doing, and I kind of get it. And Baker's going to be on a different team this year.
Yeah, and I want to express some sympathy for Baker Mayfield because I don't think the goodbye letter, like everybody's making fun of it and whatever, like he didn't. There's much worse things we've seen players do to get traded. He got into his feelings a little bit, and understandably so. I would not blame the Browns for wanting to replace him with Deshaun Watson. 26 teams or 25 teams, where the number is, would upgrade by adding Deshaun Watson and getting rid of their current quarterback. It seems asinine to me to say, unless Baker said, I'm not going to play for you, and then I'd almost make him prove it. But to say we're going to deal Baker Mayfield away to somebody else, possibly in the same conference to the Colts, and we're going to replace him with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's our plan. Now maybe
based on his performance, yeah. But what if it's his off-field stuff? I mean, because I guess he might have some maturity issues from what I've gathered from the reporting.
There was certainly a shot taken by someone who said they'd like to have an adult at the position. Somebody whispered that to Chris Mortensen, right, who said it on ESPN. But what? Like you're pursuing Deshaun Watson right now, and you're concerned about Baker Mayfield's maturity and off-field problems?
Fair point. Yeah, and you know what? Mayfield, a pretty good rookie season by rookie standards, and then was terrific at the end of 2020. Last 6 games, he had a 103.4 passer rating. He played great football, and then won them a playoff game. And he tore his shoulder in the 2nd week of the season last year and played so hurt. So, I think it's a little unfair to judge him based on 2021. All right, let's see what the people are talking about here in our chat. By the way, we've got the J.D. McKissic news. He's back in Washington. They matched the Bills offer. And March Madness, baby. So it's your last chance to compete with us in our March Madness pool. I'll be there with Dave and Jamie and Heath and Chris. We want you there as well. Join us at cbssports.com/FFT brackets. That should work. cbssports.com/FFT brackets. I know we had some trouble earlier in the week, but it's all good now. Winner gets a spot in the 2022 Listeners League, trip to the 2023 Final Four, which Kansas will not be in because they are probably going to be destroyed by sanctions after this season. So the Kansas Jayhawks, Heath's favorite team, better win this year. Well, I was listening to the Ion College basketball podcast before we came on, and they love Kansas coming out of the Midwest, which is apparently the easiest region. A lot of question marks in that Midwest region. Yeah, I'm sorry, Heath. Go ahead. Would you like to stick up for the cheaters? Did you just say that
Kansas will not win because they are going to have sanctions at the end of this season? That's going to prevent them from winning their
No.
I believe I believe every year but one that Kansas has won the national championship, it's been followed by sanctions the following season. So if there are sanctions coming, history would tell us that probably means Kansas is going to win it all.
Okay, they're definitely gonna be in my Final Four. I'll tell you that much. But I'm not going to tell you anything else because I want to beat you all. So join our bracket challenge, cbssports.com/FFT brackets. Next week, we've got post-free agency rankings. We're going to have a guest come on next week as well. I know you enjoyed having Jake Seeley on. We'll get some more industry thoughts. And we'll talk Dynasty on Thursday as the dust from free agency and all these trades settles. Quick thing, Dave, you said the Bengals are the cream of the crop in the AFC North, and you may be right. But let's not forget, the Ravens were actually in first place when Lamar Jackson got hurt. So don't forget about them, all right? All right, my man?
Sure, I won't forget about
Dave's
that.
On delay.
I don't think I'm on delay. I think there's an issue with your stuff. Or maybe I am on delay. What the hell do I know? Can you remind me who played in the Super Bowl this past year?
Right, but when Lamar Jackson was playing, I'm just saying they were better than the Bengals when they played. Who do you think wins the AFC North?
Cincinnati Bengals. They are just getting
some questions from the crowd. Okay. Heath left. It seems like he's
back.
Coming back here. All right.
NFL's breaking the internet.
All right, from John D. I traded for Antonio Gibson this morning in Dynasty. Any grieving tips?
Oh, well, what did you give up? That's what I'd want to know, John, is how big of a price did you pay thinking that you were going to get 3-down workhorse back Antonio Gibson for the next couple of years? He's still going to be good just because J.D. McKissic's there, but I think Washington's really made it clear now. It's been a couple of seasons. They just don't want to use Gibson in a 3rd-down role. The silver lining is that he has caught a nominal amount of passes. I'm not going to say it's a lot on 1st and 2nd downs, and they can work that into their offense a little bit more.
I had Gibson before any of this nonsense at RB13 in my dynasty rankings. He might be down at 15 or 16 after the draft, but no, I still think you should be very happy to have Antonio Gibson on your team, and I think he'll be a high-end number 2 running back for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
One problem is that when he was in Philly, Carson Wentz targeted his running backs no more than about 19% of his total pass attempts. Did go up to 23% last year with Indy. I'm sure that's more of a byproduct of, here's what we want you to do to not cost us the game, Carson. We'll see if Washington asks them to do the exact same thing. If they do, and Wentz is throwing the ball to his running backs 20+% of the time, that's got to be a good thing for Gibson. He'll get some work.
Heath, what is the history? By the way, I changed the setting here. I hope this is better. You guys let me know if my audio is better. I understand I had some issues. What is the history of...
It was just your face, not
Carson
your
Wentz.
audio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, sorry. The history of Carson Wentz throwing to because go ahead.
Dave just while you were doing the things that you were doing, literally just gave us the history of Carson Wentz throwing to his running back. So I can tell you it was right around 19% when he was in Philadelphia, but when he went to Indianapolis, it went up to around 23%.
Yeah.
The past 3 years, Washington's system has been maybe 2 years in Washington and 1 in Carolina. They've been there for, this is their 3rd year, right?
Yes.
So the last 3 years for Scott Turner, his teams have thrown to their running backs about 26%, 25, 26% of the time. I would anticipate that since we saw Wentz respond to Indianapolis's plans to throw their running backs, and he's going to a team who does that more, that he will throw to his running backs more. And even like we see that with older quarterbacks anyway, and he's getting older. He doesn't want to get hit.
Okay, I'm going to hop out of the stream and hop back in. Let me give you guys a question to answer while I do that. How about this one from Michael Morris? Does Randre Stevenson's value dip because of the return of James White in New England? And I'll be right back, guys. You discuss amongst yourself.
I think it does take a dip. I know that one of the things that we liked about Stevenson was his chance to possibly help in the passing game. White still has to come back from the injury that he suffered. I think he can do it. He's had plenty of time. And I know the Patriots are going to trust him in that role, which tells me that we're going to see Damian Harris as the lead running back on running downs. He will cede some work away to Randre Stevenson over the course of the year. But I am definitely getting the sense now more than ever that Randre Stevenson is going to be a fancy handcuff that people are going to draft probably a little sooner than they should. I was excited about him as soon as the season ended last year, Heath. And now I'm thinking it's going to be close to like that round 9 range where I would consider Randre Stevenson now.
Yeah, like in terms of PPR projections, I would draft Stevenson ahead of White. But in terms of PPR projections, I've got Damian Harris at running back 29, White at 39, Stevenson at 40. I'm not real excited about any of them. I'm sure if you have Harris on your team, he's going to have a 6-week stretch where he's a number 2 running back at least. And there will probably be a 2 or 3 game stretch where Stevenson's good. And I think White will be a sneaky good PPR flex that's available in the double-digit rounds. But it's the Patriots and it's running backs, and we've been here before.
I do normally love the Patriots approach, obviously, when it comes to anything, but last year especially, their offensive line was really good, and I know that offensive line is starting to get changed around a little bit. Trading Shaq Mason to the Bucks, for example, something that just stands out to me, and I don't really love that for them. I'm curious to see how that offensive line comes together this year. The left side of that line, of course, center David Andrews, certainly good to go, but it's probably a backfield. You've heard it before from people that you kind of just want to avoid, or you just take the last remaining guy, the one who advances the latest on draft day, the one you find in round 12 plus, and you put them on your bench and you hope that they get some heat at some point during the year. And that could end up being James White, even in a PPR league.
Let's jump to some Watson stuff. Question from Adam, not our Adam, but Adam on YouTube. Best landing spot for fantasy for Watson: Carolina, Tampa. That's not a thing anymore. Carolina,
No.
New Orleans, or Atlanta.
Why don't we throw Seattle in there instead of Tampa?
And
I
Seattle will
did,
be.
yeah,
Or
isn't
do
the
you not-
report
or
that
do
he
you
already
want to put Cleveland in there because he said no to Seattle?
right? I think Cleveland would make some more sense.
How about
Okay,
favorite
so-
landing spot for Watson?
Carolina for me?
Fantasy, I think it's Carolina. Yeah, you just look at the receivers that they have there. And you look at that offense that should be able to bounce back a little bit after last year. And obviously the quarterback would play a huge role in that. And we've seen Watson play well behind inferior offensive lines before. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if he ended up having a very nice year for the Carolina Panthers. That would be my first choice. I think the Falcons would be second for me, actually, ahead of New Orleans. I know New Orleans has Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and those guys are certainly going to get a lot of attention from whoever is under center for the Saints. But I think about the Falcons, and I think about them trailing quite a bit, and Deshaun Watson just force-feeding downfield shots to Kyle Pitts. I like that. And I also think that someone else will come along in Atlanta and be that second target that Watson could work with. I think that offense, that passing offense, will have a lot more upside if it's Watson compared to Matt Ryan.
You weren't on the show yesterday, Dave, so you didn't know this, but Will Fuller is going with Deshaun Watson wherever he goes in all of our hypothetical situations.
There,
So
that would be amazing.
I think about, and I kind of feel like we've forgotten how good Michael Thomas was back when, and maybe he won't be again, but he's not that old. Man,
No.
if that offense with Kamara and Thomas and Watson, I think New Orleans would be my second choice. I know for sure my last choice is Cleveland. Don't go to Cleveland, please. Other than that, I'm good with any other options.
I'm a little worried about what that Saints offense will look like without Sean Payton helping out each week.
Okay, so I'm back. I know it's not perfect. I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking. I'll just cue you all up here. So, okay, we talked about Watson here. How about this question about Dynasty? Would you rather have George Kittle as your tight end 2 or pick 104 in a 12-team Superflex PPR Dynasty League? Would you rather have George Kittle, I guess he has another tight end, or the 4th pick in the rookie draft in a Superflex PPR Dynasty League?
Don't understand. Like, so you have one of the other 3 tight ends that's ahead of George Kittle? Let's think of it as Kittle or 104 because I'm confused.
Because now, like, if Kittle is his tight end 2, he's going to think about using Kittle in his super flex from week to week.
I would take any first round pick in a super flex rookie draft over George Kittle.
I don't know if I would take anyone, but certainly the 4th one. Trade in that piece while you can to get a young player in return. You're locked into either one of the top. Well, I mean, it's obvious, one of the top 4 running backs or one of the top 4 receivers. It'll probably end up being a receiver that you take there, whether it's Garrett Wilson or if you're going to be patient with Jameson Williams. That's the type of player you're going to get, and that's somebody who could absolutely help you for a much longer period of time than what Kittle has left.
Okay, how about from Robert Thomas? Thoughts on the Bengals offensive line signings and the impact on Joe Burrow?
Love it. Absolutely love it. And I kind of hope that they're not done. I like that they got Kappa. Kappa wasn't like an amazing offensive lineman for Tampa Bay. He might have arguably been their worst offensive lineman last year, but he's still good. And he's certainly better than what they had before. And I'm blanking on the other guy that they added. So, but I remember liking it when they got him. There it is, Ted Karras. Right. Another good veteran center who could help fill up the interior of that offensive line.
But this is not what the Chiefs did last year, at least not yet. I mean, there's still a couple guys out there that could change it, but they've made modest improvements to a terrible offensive line. I would not think, I'd be surprised when we get to August if this is the group that this would be ranked anything other than slightly below average. And I don't think it's above average.
Similar question.
I think it's going up. I think it'll be minimum.
For those of you listening, I know that it's taking them about 3 seconds to hear my question. And I apologize for the technical issues. I'm not really sure why that's happening, but same offensive line question. This is from Hayden, but for Pittsburgh and for Najee Harris, as the Steelers have tried to upgrade their offensive line. I don't know that they have, but they've definitely brought in some guys. What do you think about the Steelers O-line?
I really like James Daniels. I liked him when he was coming out. He's got versatility. He can play anywhere on the interior offensive line. And I actually think the Steelers got a good deal on him too. So certainly an upgrade. That might have been the worst offensive line in football last year. So Daniels is a plus. Mason Cole was someone that actually stood out for, I believe, the Vikings last year. I think he's an obvious upgrade in the middle of that line. They're probably going to have Green as their other interior offensive lineman, and the tackle spots are really what's left. And they kept Chucky. They're going to let him stay at right tackle. So, like Cincinnati, they improved their offensive line. I think it's going to be good for Najee. I think he'll be more efficient. How could he be less efficient? He'll be more efficient on his runs. But I also think it's going to be good to keep Trubisky upright, and that's one thing that he absolutely has to have, because when he's pressured, he's awful. So I'm looking forward to seeing that line gel, be better. Another unit that I don't know if they'll be league average. They'll probably be just below league average overall, unless they make a big splash in the draft. But they've got a good line. It's moving in the right direction now compared to last year.
like if we were ranking them though, because the Bengals were ahead of the Steelers, but both were in the bottom 10 for sure. Like I said, I wasn't sure the Bengals had gotten to average yet. The Steelers definitely haven't gotten to average yet, right?
I agree. But they're getting there. They're getting there. I like the Bengals line better than the Steelers line.
Do you think the quarterback issue in Indianapolis will affect Jonathan Taylor's value tremendously?
Who is the quarterback for Indianapolis? Like, as of right now, they still have the possibility of landing Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield or Jameis Winston or Gardner Minshew. If you get any of those guys, I think you're probably fine. But like if they were to go into the season with and miss on all those guys, and that's one of the risks of the approach they took, where they just said, you know what, we're getting rid of Carson Wentz and we'll figure the rest out later. If they go into the year with one of these rookie quarterbacks that isn't drafted in the first half of the first round, then I think it will be a little bit concerning for Taylor. Yeah.
Looks like Amari Cooper's going to wear
next
number
question.
2 for the Browns, by the way. Same number that Tim Couch wore for a time with Cleveland.
And Tim Couch is a good person to bring up as we ruminate on the fact that they're going to let Baker go or trade Baker away, whether they get Watson or not, because their quarterback history before Baker Mayfield should remind them it's not that easy to go find an average quarterback.
Fact.
True. From Adam, AJ Brown without Julio Jones or DJ Moore with Deshaun Watson? Who would you rather have, AJ Brown without Julio or DJ Moore with Deshaun Watson in PPR?
I'd rather have Brown because he will score more touchdowns. He will get plenty of targets, and he's got a great track record of putting up good numbers whenever Derrick Henry's healthy. I don't expect them to bring in another big-time wide receiver in Tennessee that would take looks away from A.J. Brown. I think he's going to be one of those guys that flirts with I can't say he's going to flirt with 150 targets because I'm worried about him staying healthy. But he'll flirt with 9 targets per game. That's a high number.
But like I've got Brown about 30 points ahead of Moore, with Moore having Sam Darnold as his quarterback. I'm trying to figure out how much Deshaun Watson would change that. But we're talking about how he could maybe flirt with 150 targets. DJ Moore just had 163 targets last year. And he's a guy who's 8.7 yards per target over his career. He's been awesome with awful quarterbacks. I just don't like DJ Moore might be a top 3 or 4 wide receiver if he gets Deshaun Watson. I'm not ready to commit to which one I would take. It would be close enough to flip a coin.
Okay. Let me see if we have one more here. It is about Zach Ertz from John D. Zach Ertz, is he worth trading for in Dynasty? I have Higbee, Noah Gray, and Trey McKitty as my only tight ends. Is worth trading for Zach Ertz.
Only if you're contending.
Mm-hmm. Bring him in.
Only if you're contending and only if you're giving up a late second round rookie pick at the absolute most.
How about this Dynasty question? Would you rather have Davis Mills and the 9th pick of the rookie draft, pick 109, or Elijah Moore in a 2 QB PPR Dynasty league? So Davis Mills and pick 109 or Elijah Moore. It's PPR and it is Dynasty, and it's 2 QB, sorry.
I would take Davis Mills in the 109, I think.
It's more the 109 than it is Mills, correct? Because I don't know how long Mills is going to be the starter for Houston. It could be 1 or 2 more seasons.
I have Elijah Moore as almost exactly the 109. So
yeah,
Davis Mills is enough of it to kick off.
Okay.
All right, last question here. We'll be back in a little bit to do a Deshaun Watson podcast, I suspect. But from Lone Star, Texas, Travis Etienne or James Robinson, Dynasty?
It's Etienne for me.
It's definitely Etienne right now. If Robinson makes a Cam Akers type recovery and he's ready at the start of training camp, it's going to be really interesting. There was a report that Jacksonville was one of the teams that was in on either Edmonds or Connor and lost out. So I don't know how much faith they have in either one of those guys. I haven't heard a lot of reports on how well ETN's surgery or recovery has gone. Wow. The Ravens are building their defense back. Zadarius Smith gets $35 million. You know what, Adam? You were right earlier. Play the clip. Adam, you were right.
I don't have it handy, Heath.
Yeah, it takes you that long even when your internet's working correctly. So I think the Ravens will be the best team in the AFC North this year.
Wow.
I never said that. I never said that. I said that they were when Jackson got hurt, but maybe they will be. You know what? If they are, then that's what I said. If they're not, then I never said that, and we'll just leave it at that. That is Dave and Heath. Thank you all for joining us on YouTube for this live Q&A. These are fun. We'll try to do more of these and get some talking points that we wouldn't ordinarily get to without your help out there. I apologize for my technical issues today. Again, stay tuned. We'll have a Deshaun Watson podcast if and when that news breaks. For Dave and Heath and Shraggy B, I'm Adam. CBSSports.com/FFT brackets. Good luck, everybody. Good luck in the NCAA tournament. And talk to you later.